in this special edition of Icethetics Jersey Watch. We're headed to the minors with a focus on the American Hockey League. Way back in episode 2 of Design Decoded, I compared the way teams are branded between the two leagues. Since many minor league clubs are owned by NHL organizations, there's naturally a lot of overlap. And I wondered whether that's wise given the strength and scope of National Hockey League brands, and if there's a disconnect in the small towns where these AHL teams play. Truth be told, I can't answer that question myself. I need some experts to weigh in. So, in this video, I'm talking with the top creatives for 2 American Hockey League teams to get their thoughts. Coming up, you'll hear from Matt McElroy, head of marketing for the Ontario Reign, and Eric Kowiatek, creative services VP for the Utica Comets. But first, we'll talk about what's new around the minor leagues this season, right now, as Icethetics presents Jersey Watch, building brands in the AHL. As we begin, here's a quick shout out to the members of the Icethetics channel with a special stick tap to the icons. Thank you so much for your support. And you can become an insider or icon member yourself with a tap of that blue join button. Thanks again and enjoy this episode. With the 22-23 hockey season well underway, let's take a look at what's new in the minors, in case you missed it. First, there are 2 new team identities in the American Hockey League this fall. The Calgary Flames wanted their prospects closer to home, so over the summer, the Stockton Heat were relocated to Alberta. The rebranded Calgary Wranglers play at the Saddledome when the Flames are on the road. The name was inspired by a WHL junior team from the 1980s. They have their own logo and uniform designs, inspired by their NHL affiliate, of course. The fire inside the W aligns perfectly with the old Atlanta Flames logo, and the secondary mark seen on the left shoulder of the jerseys is a side profile version of Blasty, the fire-breathing horse from the Calgary Flames' original 3rd jersey. Then there's the new expansion team, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, located just outside Palm Springs and affiliate of the Seattle Kraken. They brought the AHL up to 32 teams, so every NHL club can have a dedicated affiliate once again. The Firebirds logo was designed by the same artist who created the Kraken's secondary anchor logo, the talented Brian Gundel. He's also credited with designing their uniforms, including that custom name and number font. The jerseys also feature a patch on each sleeve commemorating the team's inaugural season. The San Jose Barracuda delivered a full complement of new uniforms this year. Back in May, they announced a new blackout alternate jersey, not unlike what the Sharks wore up until last season. It features an abbreviated nickname across the chest, a bit like the Sens, Bolts, and Canes jerseys we've seen in the NHL. And just before the season started, the Barracuda added new primary sweaters, nicknamed Ice and Steel. The white Ice jersey uses a simplified SJ crest, and the gray Steel jersey features the full primary logo, and both designs employ a new 4-stripe motif. It's a cool look, but at the time I'm recording this video, the Steel jersey has yet to be worn in a game. The black one, designated as their 3rd, has been functioning as their primary dark jersey so far. We'll see if that changes as the season goes on. We've also got a new 3rd jersey for the Springfield Thunderbirds, which introduces a new metallic gold to go with their 2-tone blue. This gives the T-Birds a look that sort of evokes their NHL affiliate, the St. Louis Blues, and kind of makes me wonder how the Blues would look with a touch of that metallic gold. One of the most minor league logos in the minor leagues belonged to the Rockford Ice Hogs, but it's been stripped down this season. There's a new roundel with a generic font as their primary logo, and the jerseys just feature the Ice Hog head on that familiar Blackhawks jersey template. A complete rebrand might actually be warranted here. I say either go all in on the classic but goofy brand, or just start from scratch. This half-and-half thing is a bit weird. The Henderson Silver Knights made a minor uniform change. Like the Golden Knights, they're switching to gray pants going forward. In Colorado, the Eagles have revised their blue jersey, replacing the diagonal word mark with their primary logo. A much better look, if you ask me. I also really like their 20th anniversary 3rd jersey. The dark gray works well for them. That brings us to a handful of other teams marking milestones with anniversary logos and patches. The Bakersfield Condors turned 25 this season. That includes their years with the West Coast and East Coast hockey leagues. The Iowa Wild commemorate 10 years since moving from Houston and incorporate the shape of their state and use the IO in Iowa to double as a 10. And then we have our featured teams in Ontario and Utica. The Reign are celebrating 15 seasons, and like Bakersfield, that encompasses their time in the AHL and ECHL, going back to 2008. As for the Comets, they're turning 10, wearing this jersey patch throughout the season. And with that, I'll introduce you now to the creative leads behind these two teams. Okay, we're talking about AHL branding in this episode, and I posed a question in a previous video. Should teams embrace originality, with a name and logo unique to their hometown? Or should they defer to their NHL parent club, in the name of cooperation? And should NHL teams be so eager to dilute their own brands by allowing other organizations to share their high-profile names and logos? It was not a question that I could answer myself, so I laid it all out in the video with a plan to eventually bring in some creatives from the American Hockey League to see what they had to say. And that's what we're doing here with two people who really know their stuff. From the West Coast, our returning champion, which is Matt McElroy. He's a part of our Talkback crew and has been seen in many videos on this channel and on the Icethetics Concept Showcase going back many years. But after spending a couple of years with the Golden Knights organization, he returned to the Ontario Reign last year as Senior Manager of Marketing and Creative. Welcome back, Matt, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk about the American League a little bit today.
And from the East Coast, another luminary in the world of AHL branding, Eric Kowiatek has been with the Utica Comets since their inception in 2013 and currently serves as the team's VP of Creative Services. Welcome, Eric, and thanks for taking some time to chat.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, before we dive into our main topic, I want to make sure our viewers understand your expertise here. Eric, let's start with you. Give us a quick rundown of your career with the Comets.
The way it started was very crazy. It just happened to fall in my lap. And I don't work just for the team. I work for the building. I work for a lot of the other things that we have underneath us. So I've done everything from design what the trash cans look like to full murals that are on the concession stands, to logos, to jerseys, to All-Star Game logos, all that.
Very cool. Now, Matt's history is well documented on this channel alone. So if you want to take a deep dive, I recommend watching at least episode 1 of Identity, which kind of chronicles his work. But Matt, let's give everyone the cliff notes of your hockey career.
Yeah, I started with the Ontario Reign as a graphic designer back in 2018 and moved on to the Vegas Golden Knights. But just like you said, last year came back to the Reign, where I oversee marketing and creative. And it's really fun, and it's been a blast to be back in California.
Awesome. Now, you both have new work that's come out this year, anniversary logos for your respective teams for this upcoming season. Let's talk about those briefly. Matt, you have the 15th anniversary of the Reign. Can you talk about that design?
Sure, yeah. So it was actually kind of late in the game. We weren't sure if 15 years was something we really wanted to highlight, but we ended up obviously deciding that it was important enough to do. And, we really wanted to incorporate both elements from the ECHL days and the kind of Kings AHL era. So there's lots of fun little details in there. The font on the side where it says 0823, that's the original jersey numbers popularized by Nike in San Jose. And then, you get the mountains, which we use a lot in our graphics, from All-Star Game logos to our look and feel for this year. Those are basically the most prominent geographical feature in our region. And then there's actually two versions of the logo. One version that uses the Reign's primary Chevy logo, and then kind of a modernized version of the original ECHL alternate logo with the dragon. So it's been cool to kind of bring that to life and tie these two really distinct eras together into one look.
Yeah, I love that. It's a very cool look. And Eric, you guys recently released a 10th anniversary mark for the Comets. How did that one come together?
It was a fun little project. It always is. It's one of the first things I started working on as soon as the season ended. We played around with the X Roman numeral a lot, but we ended up falling for the 1 and the 0 because we can slide that comet right through it. And that nice simple mark, the same embossed style we had on the 5th anniversary, and just tied it together.
So let's get down to our big question now. Should AHL teams embrace originality in their look or defer to their NHL partners? And how is that complicated by NHL teams owning their AHL affiliates? Eric, let's get your thoughts first on this.
I love originality, but I also like the tie. So I think I fell into a perfect situation where I like having a unique name, but still having the colors of the brand that you're associated with.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that. I do like originality. I think there's, it makes sense to define your own brand and kind of be your own team, especially when you're really close, like the Reign are to the Kings. But, I think at the end of the day, the AHL has become a league that's all about providing for the NHL, and having those names and colors overlap just enforces that for, maybe the casual fan.
That's a great point you bring up too. Like, you with the Ontario Reign, you're kind of right in the middle of like a double NHL market. You're just in like an hour away from both the Kings and the Ducks. So that's a marketing challenge for you, I would assume. How do you make sure you're standing out?
Yeah, that's a huge problem for us. I mean, not only the Kings and the Ducks, but if you expand it, the Gulls and the Firebirds are in our backyard, basically. So it is a challenge, and it's something that we deal with a lot. Is who are the Reign? How are we different than the Kings? How are we the same? And I think it's a really fine line. I think one of the luxuries of being a minor league team is that maybe we can have a little bit more fun. So I think we try and push our look and feel and our specialty jerseys maybe a little further than the Kings are allowed to do, just to kind of attract that family audience and kind of be just a little more fun and a little less serious. And that allows the guys down in El Segundo to be that luxury product that they're trying to be.
That's a great point. And we're going to get into those specialty jerseys in a second. But, Eric, you're in Utica, you're right there in the heart of AHL territory. You're surrounded by longtime teams like, Syracuse and Rochester. And, what's it like marketing an AHL team that's in the middle of all the action?
It's awesome because the rivalries sell themselves a lot of the time. It's getting a little harder, especially post-COVID. People don't want to come out as much, but it's the rivalries are what sell everything, especially when everything's right there on the thruway in New York. So Rochester's only a few hours down. Syracuse is less than an hour. But at the same time, it poses that same, we're not going to draw from that area because they already have their own team to go to.
I know there used to be a team in Albany. I don't think there is one anymore. Does that end up being part of your territory that you're looking for fans?
It naturally, so it was the Devils organization. So that helps since the new affiliation. It drives those fans that were for Albany Devils. But it's not necessarily what we target because it doesn't necessarily drive the needle as much.
So no Albany River Rats night at the Comets?
You don't expect that, no.
Okay.
So, but you mentioned the affiliation change that recently happened for the Comets. Both of you work for AHL teams that are owned by their NHL affiliates, and more it's becoming less common to see an AHL team that isn't owned by an NHL club. So you guys use their colors. You use their logos in some ways. I think more so, Matt, you guys with the Reign than the Comets. But how does that impact you design-wise? Are there directives that come down from upper management in LA or New Jersey?
Yeah, I think maybe towards the beginning there was more of that. I think when teams are new, just talking to people over at the Firebirds, they're a lot more managed by their NHL parent club. And I obviously can't speak for all the teams in the league, but the Reign are an established enough organization that we're kind of left to do what we think is right. Obviously, we work very closely with the Kings, but the big challenge for us is actually that the Kings are starting to use the Chevy logo more and more. Does that hurt the Reign brand? That's sort of the conversation we're starting to have is, with the Kings kind of using it in their third jersey and using it in more merchandise, does that take away from our mark? And are we looking to be a one-to-one copy if theoretically the Kings were ever to go back to that? So those are sort of preliminary conversations we're having now, but they influence us in a very high level to, I guess, answer your question.
With New Jersey, at the very beginning, like Matt, echoing on what Matt said, at the very beginning, yes, there was like some making sure we're doing things right. And initially they were a fan of being the Utica Devils again. My boss was very adamant about sticking with Utica Comets and the brand we built up in Utica, which I was a huge fan of. So that was awesome. And the working relationship with them has been pretty good. Like only the big projects do we have to really go to them, or things where we're tying closer to the Devils where we'll have to get the approval. But for the most part, we get to run with a lot of stuff, which is awesome.
That's great. And speaking of, running with stuff, one thing that distinguishes the minor leagues is the frequent use of specialty jerseys on your theme nights. You both have designed, I know, your fair share over the years, but tell us about one or two of your favorites. Eric, why don't you start?
So for me, I definitely always take pride in the military jerseys. Like those are always fun, especially when incorporating the camo directly into the jersey, but still making it legible. I feel like that's a problem. Why I see like a lot of the college sports is they'll have a camo jersey and you can't see the number at all. You're using it correctly, I guess, but you're defeating the purpose of sports. I feel like you got to be able to identify the players on the field, especially I work closely with our broadcasters and with a lot of things too. So they always appreciate that I take that into consideration. Aside from that, one of my favorite projects was definitely the retro Canucks thing we did just before, it was the last game before COVID, actually. Taking that flying skate logo and interpreting it into a Comet style. Like growing up in the 90s, growing up a Rangers fan, hate to say it when I'm, working for a Devils organization, but that 1994 Stanley Cup was one of my biggest memories growing up. So that Canucks logo really brought back memories for me. So it was fun to work with that and try and make that again.
Yeah, that was a very cool one. I remember that. And I like it in the original colors too. Matt, what about you? I know you've done a ton of specialty jerseys as well.
Yeah, picking a favorite is hard. I think, funnily enough, one of my least favorites is the military jerseys, just because of the camo. And if you look at the trend of the jerseys I've done for Henderson and Springfield in the rain recently, I try not to use camo and kind of find inspiration in other aspects of the military. But I guess one of my favorites was last year's first responders jersey. I think we've talked about it in the past. I just love the way it came out, and it feels very firefighter-y, and I feel like we just really captured the essence of what that night was about, and we're able to perfectly blend the similarities between a hockey jersey and a fireman's uniform. And I really loved that. And then all the Hockey Fights Cancer and Pink in the Rink jerseys mean a lot to me. My mom had cancer, so those always really hit close to home, and I know they affect a lot of people. And it's just cool to know that this stuff that we do for kind of loving it and fun almost can make such a difference in people with the money we're able to raise for all these great foundations. So stuff that has a good cause like that, whether it's cancer or children's charities, those ones always kind of stick out to me.
So I asked Icethetics viewers and readers if they had any questions for you guys earlier today, knowing that I'd be interviewing you. And one that came up, Matt Burke on Twitter asked, what are your favorite AHL brands apart from your own? And I want to add a twist in there. It can be past or present. Mm. Matt, why don't you start us?
Well, right off the rip, I think Milwaukee's got the best logo in the AHL. I just think it's so cool, and it feels modern and timeless at the same time. So that one sticks out a lot, but I think the Hershey Bears are definitely in the conversation. I'm trying to think if there's a past one I really liked. The Albany River Rats. I like a lot of the weird 90s, almost minor league baseball names, the Lowell Lock Monsters. Those ones are real fun. I like that a lot.
I will agree with the Hershey Bears. Like a unique color scheme like that, brown, you don't see that in sports very often. Like that brown and cream, it's beautiful. It's unique. It's awesome. The Manitoba Moose, I really like that logo, especially transforming it into the new color scheme matching the Jets. I love that as well.
It was a great modernization of their classic
Absolutely.
logo.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, those are some great examples for sure. I want to get into some more viewer questions here, but I had another one from one of our new members. I recently opened up memberships on the Icethetics YouTube channel. Lucas Gates, he's an Icon member, and he had this question for you, Eric. What can you say about the transition from Vancouver to New Jersey, and was it a decision that was unanimous on what it should look like? And I just wanted to add too, as far as the colors, being changed, the logo was also redrawn a little bit.
Yes, it was. Yes. We initially just changing the colors definitely didn't work. It needed something else. So it needed that border around the red, that black border just gives it that same encompassing that the Devils logo has. And then there was some modifications in the comment and an additional outline added. Like, it honestly was one of my harder projects. Is as simple as it looks, like almost like a complete color change. It wasn't at all.
Yeah, there was a lot of little details that changed in it for sure. And one other detail was kind of a follow-up question from Lucas. Was there any consideration, he asks, to change the Utica Comets font on the logo? You currently you're using Agency, which is the kind of the Canucks font, to something more in line with the Devils. And he talked about that.
So no, we stuck with that font just because that branding was established. We don't use Agency anymore in any of our other branding. We tend to use some other fonts, United and Tungsten, a lot of the usual ones, a lot of sports teams tend to lean on, but they're great. Whenever we have like a logo that's black and white that was already in the building, it doesn't need to change at all because it still retains that same shape, that same look.
Another question, quick. Josh Hinoyosa from YouTube asks, what's your favorite thing that you've worked on that unfortunately never saw the light of day?
I can't talk about it because I'm hoping it's still going to happen.
Maybe it will see the light of day someday.
Yeah. Similar story. I'll take over for a second. It could potentially still see the light of day, but I'll talk about it. We were going to have an outdoor game in the year that didn't happen, or didn't happen till late. So basically the season started at the same time the game would have happened. So we announced that we were going to have the Empire State Classic, an outdoor game that was going to be in Rome, New York at the air base there. That logo was one of my favorite things I designed, actually, was the outdoor Empire State Classic logo. And the jerseys that went along with it, I really liked. We had an awesome release video already made. All this stuff was already set to go. And then that fateful March 2020 happened and put a kibosh on a lot of things. So the colors might obviously change, but there's still potential that could maybe someday see the light of day.
Well, I hope it does, because that sounds like it would be really cool.
I thought of one.
You got one, Matt? Go ahead.
Yeah, so this year, 15th anniversary, I really wanted the team to wear the original ECHL colors of navy blue, orange, and white. And we looked and looked and looked at buying a full set of equipment so that we could match them. But it was just a little too expensive. So we're not going to be doing that, but we will be wearing the ECHL jerseys in sort of a reverse retro style again this year. So kind of a half win there.
Nice. Well, this last question comes from one of our own, Nate Thomas from the Talkback crew. He asks, what is something you both would love to do with your team that feels very out there?
Wear a color. I'd love to play an outdoor game against the San Diego Gulls on the USS Midway. So much, I brought up this idea so much that last year for April Fools, we actually announced this fake game on Twitter, and it got a lot of attention, and people were retweeting it, and we called it the Flight Deck Classic, and people were DMing us and calling in and asking if this was real, and we didn't even tell the Gulls, and people were asking them, and I was talking to one of their marketing guys, AJ, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I just thought it'd be funny, like it's April Fools, who would think this was real? April
Fool's jokes can definitely get you in trouble on the internet.
Yeah.
The Checkers, do you remember their rebrand April Fool's joke?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
People loved it. That was the problem.
They turned it into a real thing.
They did. Yeah.
Eric, did you have any examples of something kind of out there that you'd like to do?
Well, actually, one of the things I've always wanted to do, we just announced we're doing a kids jersey design contest open to any students.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Students in the area, local students, can submit jersey designs. I've always wanted to take something that wasn't mine, something that's maybe crudely drawn or just made with crayon, and just turn it into a real jersey, and then something that someone else can be proud of that I designed.
I love that. Are you going to polish it up, or are you going to just do it? Yeah, that's
absolutely going to polish it up. Yes.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I'm going to be looking forward to that. And with that, I think we're about out of time. So I want to thank you both. Matt, Eric, thank you again
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great.
Well, it was really great talking with Matt and Eric, and one thing that came up after our conversation was the Comets throwback jerseys, where they resurrected the Utica Devils. That was really fun to see. The Devils originally played in the AHL for 6 years, from 1987 to 1993, with the New Jersey Devils logo converted to a U shape for Utica. And it just happened to be 35 years since the formation of that club, so the Comets replaced their anniversary patch on those throwback nights. Very nice touch there from Eric and his team. And that does it for this special edition of Icethetics Jersey Watch on building brands in the AHL. I hope you enjoyed my talk with Matt and Eric, and I look forward to talking with both of them again in the future. Thanks as always for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. That's all for now. See you next time.